To get us going, I want to start talking about the basics of music and specifically how they pertain to drums and rhythm. We can't make music if we can't count, if we can't count rhythm, and if we can't kind of identify how drums, the backbone of so much of the music that we listen to, how drums are laid out in a DAW. So for those of you who have no music experience, this will cover some basics of rhythm as they pertain specifically to drums. And for those of you with some music experience, but maybe no real experience working in a DAW, this will kind of explain how music notation kind of is seen and how we use our knowledge of music in the digital domain. To start with, a drum set is made up of a number of different drums. There's the kick drum that uses a pedal to hit the head of the drum. There's a snare drum. There's the hi-hat cymbals that sit on a stand with a pedal. There's the toms, do 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 do. There are a variety of different cymbals, these pieces of metal that you see over the drum set from the bird's eye. Various crashes. There are smaller ones that are called splashes, and one with a larger bell that's called a ride cymbal. We'll probably start off just kind of focusing on the kick drum, the snare drum, and the hi-hat, which I would probably call, that important triad of drums, the most important drums in any basic drum beat. So again, the kick drum, also called the bass drum, is played with your foot. It tends to play on beats 1 and 3 of a measure, and that's a total generalization, but definitely usually beat 1 and somewhere around beat 3. And we're going to kind of focus on this generalization to start with. Kick drums tend to also or often play in sync with the bass guitar, or whether it's a synth bass. Sometimes totally in sync, sometimes certain notes are accented with the kick drum. And for those of you, because 808s have become so ubiquitous in modern music, an 808 is really a combination of a kick drum and a bass. And that's because, for those of you who understand the term pitch, 808s also carry pitch. They play certain notes, specific notes. The snare drum, it's called a snare because of these metal wires that are on the bottom head of the drum. They're very, very tight, and they create this a very tight sound. The snare drum tends to play on beats 2 and 4, and that is a generalization, but it's pretty accurate in modern pop music. And again, variety of variations of that, but 2 and 4 is pretty straight ahead. And the hi-hat. So again, I said kick, snare, and hi-hat are our main drums that we'll focus on to start. A hi-hat is actually made up of 2 cymbals that kind of sit on top of each other on a foot pedal stand, and you can open and close them depending how you use your foot. Hi-hats tend to play a more consistent pattern than kick and snare. So if a kick and snare is on beats 1 and 2, a hi-hat might play eighth note patterns, or quarter notes, or 16ths, or 32nds, 64ths, etc. And we're going to listen to that, how that sounds in Pro Tools pretty quick. But in terms of definitions, one of the key things we have to know is tempo. Tempo pretty much guides and drives everything as we're making music, as we're playing music. So tempo is the speed of the music, and it's measured in beats per minute. So how many beats would occur in a minute is your tempo. And the default tempo, whenever you start a session in Pro Tools, or pretty much any other DAW for that matter, your tempo is set automatically to 120 BPM. And you need to change that. So that becomes one of the first things that we do when we start a session or start a song in any DAW. And let's take a look at Pro Tools real quick. So I've already put in a click track so that our metronome, and I've set my tempo to 90 BPM. I'm going to put it back to 120 just to hear what 120 sounds like. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. All right. I'm going to put this back to 90. Listen to what 90 sounds like. 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. A bar. A bar, also known as a measure, is 4 beats. 1, 2, 3, 4. On a musical staff, it looks like this. So I'm not going to get too much into time signature, but the majority of music that we listen to is in 4/4 time. So in that time signature, 4 quarter notes or 4 beats is one measure. In a DAW, we don't look at music on a staff. We look at it on a grid. So if you think about taking one thing, like a whole note, which is also 4 beats, or 2 half notes, which is also 4 beats, and you divide it into 4, so these 4 squares each represent a quarter note. And in Pro Tools, let's go away from the click track. These dots here are hi-hats, and you can see the fraction 1/1, 1/2, 1/3, and 1/4. These are playing a quarter note pattern. 1, 2, 3, 4. Quarter notes can be broken down into faster values, essentially faster or more. So quarter notes can be broken down into eighths, 16ths, 32nds, and even 64ths. Let's check out some of those. So here we have our quarters, 1, 2, 3, 4. And that's how you count quarter notes. Here are eighth notes. And we count those by saying 1 and 2 and 3 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 16ths. We count these 1 E and a 2. 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E and a. Not that easy to do. Even at 90, 16th notes are hard to count. Okay, what else do we have going on here? So the grid would be eighth. If we set the grid to eighth notes, I'm going to go back and do that and show you that you can customize your grid and 16th notes. Let's do that. So the grid is defined by, these squares that we see. We can turn the grid on and off. So if you don't see it, you can click it on. And that note value next to the word grid here, if you click on that, you can set your grid to any musical value. Right now my grid is set to measures or to bars, to half notes, so you see 2 squares, to quarter notes, so you see 4, eighths. I tend to suggest that you start and you're always working in 16ths unless you need to change it for some reason. 16ths is not so many squares that it's hard to see, but it's enough squares that you can do a majority of your programming. So let's check out what 32nds looks like, and even 64ths. Okay, 64ths, you'd have to really zoom in to see it. There are times we want to use 64ths, but only when we need to or want to. And I'll show you an example of that as well. All right, so a basic drum beat in a DAW, in Pro Tools, is going to look something like this, where this is a 16th note grid. So we have 1/1, that first column. So 1, E, and a 2. So kick on 1, snare on 2, kick on 3, snare on 4. And in this example, it's playing a quarter note pattern on the hi-hats. Do I have an example of that? I don't, because I went straight to an eighth note pattern. So I'm just going to kind of really do this quickly, because why not? Oops, not that one. We'll go here. So if this is 16th notes, every other square would be an eighth note pattern. And that's what this example is. So here is our basic beat with eighth notes. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. I can open up the Midi Editor and you can see, let me zoom out one more level. 1/1, one more level, 1/1, 1/2, 1/3. This is a 16th notes. And as we zoom in, it's still 16th notes, but you see some additional breakdowns. If I really quickly want to show you what 16th notes on the hi-hat would sound like. Wait, that was weird. Okay, that would be 16th notes. Let's go. What else do we have going on? All right, so by adding another kick drum here and another kick drum here, boom, cack, ba-boom, boom, cack, boom, cack, ba-boom, boom, cack. Very classic hip-hop drum beat. One, two, three, four. 1, 2, 3, 4. So earlier I said, kick drum tends to play on 1 and 3, and that's true. This is 3, but this is the 1 E and of 4 of 2. I'm sorry, 1, 2 E and 3 E and. So you do play on different parts of the beat, but there's still that kind of grounding feel of 1, 2, 3, 4. I think I made another drum beat here. All right, so adding to that same kick drum pattern, I added a couple of snare drums here. So boom, cack, ba-boom, boom, cack, 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 boom, cack, ba-boom, boom, cack, cack, cack. And a couple of hi-hats. Tat, 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 tat. Let's see. That would be here. One, two, three, four. 1, 2, 3, 4. All right, really important to practice counting. And then finally, I can't make a table in Google Slides to demonstrate 30 seconds or 64ths, but here is an example of 64th notes. We are at 90 BPM, so in a way, it's not as fast as you might expect, but you can see that for each quarter note, so this is, for each 16th note, let's get my zoom back, okay? So if this is a 16th note and this is broken up into 4 actual hits of that cymbal, it's pretty fast. Okay, so that. And that is really common these days in pop music and trap music, rap, whatever you want to call it. And we'll come back to that. But basically, that's breaking down rhythms, quarter notes, kick and snare, and the basics of rhythm.